Afghanistan, a mountainous nation located at the heart of Central Asia, has a history filled with significant events and cultural transformations. From the earliest human settlements to the political challenges of the contemporary era, the country has been the stage for a remarkable series of historical developments. In this article, we will embark on a comprehensive journey through the history of Afghanistan, exploring its ancient origins all the way to the present day.
The prehistoric remains found in Afghanistan date back to a fascinating period in human history, revealing the presence of ancient nomadic communities. These archaeological discoveries provide a unique insight into some of the earliest human activities in the region, covering a period that stretches back more than 50,000 years. The earliest remains discovered in Afghanistan date to the Lower Paleolithic, demonstrating the ability of early humans to adapt to the challenging conditions of the environment. Stone tools, such as flakes and rudimentary hand axes, have been discovered at archaeological sites such as Durrani Empire and Kandahar. As human society evolved, Afghanistan became a meeting point along the migration routes of early human communities, allowing for cultural exchange and the sharing of knowledge. Prehistoric remains include discoveries from caves that sheltered these communities, providing evidence of hunting, food gathering, and even early forms of rock art. One of the most remarkable discoveries is the archaeological site of Mundagak, dating to the Neolithic period, around 5000 BC, in southern Afghanistan. The site revealed an ancient settlement with well-planned structures, indicating the development of an agricultural society and the practice of farming. These prehistoric remains provide more than just insights into the origins of the Afghan people. They also contribute to our understanding of human history as a whole. Through these discoveries, archaeologists can reconstruct patterns of migration, cultural development, and the ways in which early human communities adapted to an ever-changing environment. Although much more remains to be discovered and explored in Afghanistan's prehistoric sites, these archaeological findings are essential for understanding our roots as a species and the ways in which the earliest inhabitants of Afghanistan shaped the region's history and culture over thousands of years.
The Achaemenid Empire played a crucial role in the history of Afghanistan during the 6th century BC. This Persian empire, led by the renowned King Cyrus the Great, established control over vast territories, including the lands that are now part of Afghanistan. In 550 BC, Cyrus the Great unified the Persian tribes and founded the Achaemenid Empire, beginning an era of territorial expansion and cultural influence. Afghanistan, then known in the broader ancient context as Aryana, became part of the vast Persian Empire, benefiting from its policies of religious tolerance and efficient administration. Achaemenid rule in Afghanistan was characterized by a centralized governmental system in which governors were appointed to administer the provinces. The construction of roads and the promotion of trade also encouraged economic development, establishing vital commercial routes between Central Asia and the Middle East. During the reign of Darius the Great, one of Cyrus's successors, the Achaemenid Empire reached the height of its power. Darius undertook impressive construction projects, including the development of the famous royal road system, which facilitated communication and trade throughout the vast empire. However, Achaemenid rule in Afghanistan was not without its challenges. The region witnessed conflicts with nomadic tribes and faced the threat of invasions from neighboring powers. Despite these difficulties, the Achaemenid Empire managed to maintain its authority in the region for more than 2 centuries. The Achaemenid Empire left a significant legacy in Afghanistan, both politically and culturally. Its rulers, including Cyrus the Great and Darius the Great, are remembered as visionary and charismatic leaders. Persian influence on art, architecture, and language also left a lasting mark on Afghan culture. Although the Achaemenid Empire eventually declined and fell before the conquests of Alexander the Great, its influence and contributions to the history of Afghanistan remain a testament to an important era of power and development. The Achaemenid period established foundations for the transformations that would follow and mark the beginning of a rich and complex history for the region.
During the 3rd century BC, the Maurya Empire exerted powerful influence over the territory that now includes Afghanistan. Ruled by Indian emperors such as Ashoka, the Maurya Empire brought major political, cultural, and religious transformations to the region. Mauryan control over Afghanistan began with the expansion led by Chandragupta Maurya, who established his capital at Pataliputra in India. His conquest of the area known as Gandhara brought a new political and administrative order to the region. At the height of his power, Emperor Ashoka ruled the Maurya Empire according to a philosophy strongly influenced by Buddhism. After converting to Buddhism, Ashoka actively promoted principles of non-violence, compassion, and religious tolerance. His edicts, inscribed on stone pillars, were distributed throughout the empire, including territories in present-day Afghanistan, spreading Buddhist teachings and the policies associated with his reign. The cultural influence of the Maurya Empire in Afghanistan was also reflected in art and architecture. Under Gandharan influence, a distinctive style of stone sculpture developed, combining Indian and Greek elements. Sculptures of Buddha, as well as Hindu deities, were created with meticulous detail and demonstrated a unique fusion of artistic traditions. However, Mauryan rule in Afghanistan eventually came to an end as a result of a combination of internal revolts and external invasions. Following the empire's decline, the Afghan region entered a period of political fragmentation, with different local rulers competing for power. Although the Maurya Empire exercised relatively brief control over Afghanistan, its legacy endured through its cultural, political, and religious achievements. The Buddhist influence associated with Ashoka and the fusion of artistic styles in Gandhara profoundly influenced the history and culture of the region. The Maurya period represents a significant chapter in Afghan history, during which the region became part of one of the great empires of its time. The legacy of this period continued to shape Afghanistan's later development, leaving a lasting impact on its identity and the religious beliefs of its people.
The arrival of Islam in Afghanistan marked a significant turning point in the country's religious and cultural history. During the 7th century AD, Islam was introduced to the region through military conquests and religious missions led by Arab Muslim forces. The Islamic expansion into Afghanistan occurred gradually, beginning with military incursions and political negotiations with local rulers. One of the earliest milestones in this process was the conquest of Herat in AD 652 by Muslim forces under the command of Abdallah ibn Amir. The process of Islamization was accompanied by the spread of Islam among local communities. Islamic missionaries and Sufi figures played an important role in the expansion of the faith and in the conversion of many people in the region. The introduction of Islam brought profound religious and cultural changes to Afghanistan. Buddhist temples and monasteries were gradually replaced by mosques and madrasas, while the Arabic language became an important influence on Persian and other local languages. Under Islamic rule, Afghanistan experienced a fusion of Persian, Arab, and local cultural elements, contributing to the development of a distinctive identity. Islamic architecture, with its ornate minarets and elaborate domes, flourished in cities such as Herat, Balkh, and Kabul. However, the arrival and expansion of Islam also generated tensions and conflicts, particularly between Sunni and Shia Muslims. Throughout Afghan history, these sectarian divisions have had a significant impact on politics and social relations. Although Islam eventually became the dominant religion in Afghanistan, pre-Islamic cultural and religious traditions, including Zoroastrianism and Hinduism, continued to influence Afghan society. This religious and cultural diversity helped shape the country's identity over the centuries. The arrival of Islam in Afghanistan remains a crucial milestone in the country's history, shaping its culture, politics, and religious identity. The influence of Islam on Afghan society continues to be a central part of everyday life and the country's social structure, providing an important historical background for understanding Afghanistan.
The Durrani Empire represents a significant period in Afghan history, marked by political consolidation and territorial expansion under the leadership of Ahmad Shah Durrani. Founded in 1747, the empire played a crucial role in the formation of Afghanistan as a unified nation. Ahmad Shah Durrani, also known as Ahmad Shah Abdali, emerged as a skilled and charismatic military leader during the 18th century. He established the Durrani dynasty and united scattered Afghan tribes under a centralized government. The Durrani Empire expanded rapidly, reaching its greatest territorial extent during the reign of Ahmad Shah Durrani. He led several successful military campaigns, expanding the empire's borders to include vast areas that today form parts of Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, and India. During his reign, Ahmad Shah Durrani also faced significant challenges, including conflicts with neighboring powers such as the Marathas and the Mughals. Nevertheless, he managed to maintain political stability and establish strategic alliances to protect the empire's borders. The Durrani Empire had a profound impact on Afghan history and culture. Under the Durrani dynasty, Persian became the official language, while the imperial court flourished through the promotion of the arts, literature, and architecture. Persian cultural influence continued to play an important role in Afghan society. The Durrani Empire also established diplomatic relations with foreign powers, including the British Empire. Ahmad Shah Durrani entered into agreements with the British concerning mutual interests in security and trade. However, the stability of the Durrani Empire began to decline after Ahmad Shah Durrani's death in 1772. Internal struggles for power and pressure from foreign powers weakened the empire, leading to conflicts and fragmentation. Although the Durrani Empire was relatively short-lived, its historical importance as an early unified Afghan state is undeniable. It established foundations for future dynasties and governments in Afghanistan, playing a fundamental role in the development of national identity and the struggle for independence. The Durrani Empire represents a period of pride and resilience in Afghan history. Its cultural and political influence shaped the country's development and remains an important part of Afghanistan's historical legacy.
The Anglo-Afghan Wars were a series of conflicts between the British Empire and Afghanistan during the 19th century. These wars had a significant influence on Afghan politics, borders, and the country's perception of itself as a nation. The First Anglo-Afghan War took place from 1839 to 1842, when British forces invaded Afghanistan in an attempt to overthrow Emir Dost Muhammad Khan and establish a government more favorable to British interests in the region. Although the British occupied Kabul, they faced a violent popular uprising and were eventually forced to withdraw under humiliating circumstances. The Second Anglo-Afghan War occurred between 1878 and 1880. It was largely a response to Russian influence in Central Asia and Britain's desire to control Afghanistan as a buffer against Russian expansion. British forces once again invaded Afghanistan, captured Kabul, and installed a ruler favorable to British interests. However, Afghan resistance intensified, leading to guerrilla warfare that eventually forced the British to withdraw again. The Third Anglo-Afghan War took place in 1919, following the First World War. Afghanistan, which had previously been under British influence, sought full independence. The conflict resulted in a series of battles and negotiations, culminating in the signing of the Treaty of Rawalpindi in 1919, which recognized Afghanistan's independence and established arrangements concerning its borders with British India. The Anglo-Afghan Wars had profound consequences for Afghanistan. Although the country maintained its nominal independence, the wars left a legacy of political instability, ethnic tensions, and lasting distrust of colonial powers. The borders between Afghanistan and British India were also reshaped, influencing the political geography of the region. These wars also had a significant impact on how Afghanistan was perceived internationally. The country gained a reputation as a land of resistance, where Afghans fought against foreign invaders. This narrative of resistance and national pride played an important role in the development of modern Afghan identity. The Anglo-Afghan Wars remain a major chapter in Afghanistan's history, representing an era of challenges and struggles for independence. The legacy of these conflicts continues to influence Afghan politics and international relations.
The 20th century marked an era of dramatic transformation and significant challenges for Afghanistan. During this period, the country experienced political, social, economic, and cultural changes that had a lasting impact on its historical trajectory. One of the first major changes occurred in 1919, when Afghanistan achieved formal independence following the Third Anglo-Afghan War. This historic milestone opened the way for a series of internal reforms and modernization efforts led by King Amanullah Khan. During Amanullah Khan's reign, which lasted from 1919 to 1929, Afghanistan underwent a period of wide-ranging reforms. These included the abolition of slavery, the promotion of education, the advancement of women's rights, and the introduction of a modern civil code. However, these rapid and ambitious changes faced strong conservative resistance, leading to internal revolts and eventually to the fall of Amanullah Khan's government. The following era was marked by political instability and internal conflicts. Several rulers succeeded one another, including King Zahir Shah, who reigned from 1933 to 1973. During this period, Afghanistan pursued a policy of neutrality and attempted to balance its relations with foreign powers such as the United States and the Soviet Union. The second half of the 20th century, however, was particularly turbulent. The Cold War brought geopolitical rivalries to the region, and Afghanistan became a battleground in the broader struggle between the Western and Eastern blocs. Soviet influence increased significantly, and in 1978, a communist coup overthrew the government of Daud Khan, leading to the establishment of a pro-Soviet regime. This development triggered the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan in 1979, which lasted nearly a decade. Afghan resistance fighters, commonly known as the Mujahideen, waged a guerrilla war against Soviet forces and their local allies. The conflict left a trail of devastation, with profound humanitarian and economic consequences for the country. The withdrawal of Soviet troops in 1989 was followed by a prolonged civil war, as different factions fought for control of Afghanistan. The situation eventually culminated in the rise of the Taliban movement during the 1990s, which seized control of most of the country and established a highly repressive regime. The 20th century in Afghanistan was marked by turmoil, conflict, and political transformation. The consequences of these events continue to reverberate today, as the country faces ongoing challenges involving peace, stability, and sustainable development. Despite these hardships, Afghanistan also has a rich cultural and sporting heritage. Cricket and buzkoshi, a traditional equestrian sport involving a goat or sheep carcass, are popular among Afghans, and the country has produced notable talents in the arts, literature, and music. The 20th century shaped Afghan identity in complex ways, reflecting a history of resilience, struggle, and aspirations for a better future. Understanding the events and contexts of this period is essential to gaining a comprehensive view of Afghanistan and its role on the world stage.
The rise of the Taliban marked a turbulent period in Afghanistan's history, with significant consequences for the country and the international community. With roots in the 1980s and 1990s, this Islamist movement gained power and influence, eventually taking control of much of Afghan territory. The Taliban emerged from religious schools known as madrasas, which expanded in Afghanistan during the Soviet occupation. Seeking to confront the instability and corruption that followed the war, the Taliban emerged as a political and military movement in the early 1990s. Its leader, Mullah Muhammad Omar, quickly attracted followers and established a strict interpretation of Islam. The movement became notorious for its brutal tactics and its imposition of a rigid interpretation of Islamic law, known as Sharia. The Taliban imposed severe restrictions on individual freedoms, particularly those of women, limiting their rights and access to education, employment, and political participation. In 1996, the Taliban captured the Afghan capital, Kabul, establishing an authoritarian Islamist regime. During its rule, the Taliban was accused of widespread human rights abuses, including public executions, the destruction of cultural heritage, and religious persecution. The rise of the Taliban also had significant implications for international security. The group provided shelter and support to al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, which was responsible for the September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks in the United States. This led to an international military response, with a United States-led coalition invading Afghanistan in 2001 under Operation Enduring Freedom. Following the U.S.-led invasion, the Taliban was removed from power but continued to operate as an insurgent movement, launching attacks against international forces and the Afghan government. The prolonged conflict between Afghan forces and the Taliban insurgency caused widespread devastation, resulting in significant loss of life and mass displacement. In the years that followed, several attempts were made to negotiate peace between the Afghan government and the Taliban, with mixed results. In 2021, following the withdrawal of international troops, the Taliban intensified its offensive and regained control of most of the country, culminating in the fall of Kabul in August of that year. The rise of the Taliban represents a turbulent chapter in Afghan history, marked by extremism, armed conflict, and human rights violations. The political, social, and humanitarian implications of this period are complex and continue to require efforts toward long-term stability and the protection of fundamental rights.
The United States-led invasion of Afghanistan in 2001 marked a crucial turning point in the country's history and had significant implications for both Afghanistan and the international community. The invasion was a response to the September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks in the United States, carried out by al-Qaeda, which maintained a presence in Afghanistan under the Taliban regime. On October 7, 2001, the United States-led coalition, supported by allied countries, launched Operation Enduring Freedom. Its objectives included dismantling al-Qaeda, removing the Taliban regime from power, and establishing a new political order in Afghanistan. The intervention was justified on the grounds of collective self-defense and the need to combat international terrorism. Coalition forces, led by the United States, implemented a broad military strategy involving intensive airstrikes, ground operations, and support for Afghan groups opposed to the Taliban. The Taliban regime collapsed rapidly, with its leader, Mullah Muhammad Omar, fleeing to the south of the country. Following the fall of the Taliban, an interim government was established in December 2001 under the leadership of President Hamid Karzai. The international community, led by the United States, played an active role in rebuilding Afghanistan, seeking to establish democratic institutions, promote economic development, and strengthen Afghan security forces. However, stabilizing and rebuilding Afghanistan proved to be formidable challenges. The country faced a persistent Taliban insurgency, which exploited weaknesses in the Afghan government and shortcomings in the implementation of development projects. The continued presence of foreign forces also generated tensions and resentment among parts of the Afghan population. The US-led invasion triggered a series of complex events and consequences. The conflict continued for more than 2 decades, resulting in a high human cost, including the deaths of thousands of civilians, Afghan military personnel, and international troops. The country also faced socio-economic challenges such as poverty, corruption, inadequate infrastructure, and limited access to basic services. The withdrawal of international troops in 2021 marked a new phase in Afghan history, as the Taliban regained control of the country and established a new government. The US-led invasion had a profound impact on Afghanistan, shaping its political, social, and economic trajectory for decades. Understanding the events and consequences of the invasion is essential for analyzing contemporary Afghanistan and considering the country's search for lasting peace and sustainable development. The legacy of the US-led intervention continues to influence Afghanistan and its relationship with the international community.
The art and architecture of Afghanistan are cultural treasures that reflect the country's rich history and diversity. From ancient times to the present day, Afghanistan has been a meeting point for artistic influences and distinctive architectural traditions, enriched by the cultures of the many peoples who have inhabited the region throughout the centuries. Afghan art dates back thousands of years, and archaeological remains reveal the presence of rock paintings and artistic objects dating to prehistoric periods. However, the Buddhist era marked a particularly significant flourishing of artistic activity in the region. During the period of the Kushan Empire, important monasteries, temples, and Buddhist sculptures were created at sites such as Bamyan and Hatta. One of the most famous examples of Afghan Buddhist art was the monumental Bamyan Buddha statues, carved into the cliffs in the 6th century AD. Unfortunately, these remarkable statues were destroyed by the Taliban regime in 2001, causing worldwide outrage and sorrow. Afghan architecture is equally remarkable, incorporating Persian, Islamic, and other regional influences. During the medieval period, the Ghaznavid Empire and the Ghuriid Empire left an important architectural legacy, including mosques, mausoleums, and elaborately decorated palaces. One iconic example is the Masjid-i Jami in Herat, constructed in the 12th century. The Timurid period was also an era of extraordinary artistic and architectural splendor. Under the patronage of Timurid rulers, including the famous Timur, magnificent palaces, mosques, and mausoleums were built, many of which can still be admired in cities such as Herat, Samarkand, and Kabul. In the visual arts, Afghan miniature painting gained prominence. During the 16th and 17th centuries, the Herat school of painting flourished, with talented artists creating detailed illustrations for manuscripts and other works. These paintings depicted religious themes, everyday life, portraits, and landscapes, demonstrating the artistic skill and aesthetic sensitivity of the region's painters. Political turmoil and conflict in recent decades have had a significant impact on the preservation and promotion of Afghanistan's art and architecture. The deliberate destruction of historical sites and the loss of important works of art during wars have been tragic blows to the country's cultural heritage. Nevertheless, despite these challenges, continued efforts are being made to preserve and revitalize Afghanistan's rich artistic and architectural heritage. Cultural organizations, museums, and academic institutions are working to document, restore, and promote Afghan art and architecture, recognizing their intrinsic value and importance to national identity and the understanding of Afghan history. Afghanistan's art and architecture stand as silent witnesses to a rich and complex history, carrying stories, traditions, and worldviews across generations. They are reminders of the resilience of the Afghan people and of the power of human creativity even in difficult times. Preserving and valuing these cultural treasures is essential for protecting Afghan identity and inspiring future generations to celebrate their artistic and architectural heritage.
Afghan music and dance are vibrant forms of artistic expression that play an important role in the country's culture and identity. With deep roots in oral traditions and a fusion of cultural influences, Afghan music and dance reflect the nation's ethnic diversity and historical narratives. Traditional Afghan music is known for its melodic richness and rhythmic complexity. Musical instruments such as the rubab, a plucked stringed instrument, the tabla, a pair of hand drums, and the sarod, another stringed instrument, are widely used to create a wide range of captivating melodies and rhythms. Afghan musical styles vary according to region and ethnic group. Persian classical music, for example, has had a strong influence on the country's musical culture, while Pashtun and Uzbek musical traditions have their own distinctive characteristics. Folk music, with its lively melodies and poetic lyrics, is also widely appreciated throughout the country. One notable Afghan musical genre is the ghazal, which consists of lyrical poetry accompanied by music. Traditional ghazals often address themes such as love, nature, and melancholy, conveying deep emotions through refined verses and evocative melodies. Dance also plays an important role in Afghan culture, serving as both an artistic form of expression and a means of social interaction. Traditional Afghan dance is characterized by graceful and elegant movements, colorful clothing, and choreographies that reflect regional and ethnic traditions. Different ethnic groups have their own distinctive dance styles, including the atan, which is particularly associated with Pashtun communities and is performed in groups with energetic movements and rhythmic steps. Throughout history, Afghan music and dance have faced challenges because of periods of conflict and repressive governments. During the Taliban regime, for example, many forms of artistic expression were prohibited and suppressed. Nevertheless, despite these adversities, music and dance continued to survive in Afghan homes and communities, while dedicated artists worked to preserve and revive these cultural traditions. Today, Afghan music and dance are experiencing a revival, with young and talented artists emerging and sharing their work through digital platforms and cultural events. This resilience is a testament to the importance of music and dance in everyday life and in the identity of the Afghan people, providing a means of creative expression, connection with cultural roots, and celebration of the country's diversity and beauty.
In conclusion, Afghanistan is a nation deeply rooted in a rich and complex history. From prehistoric remains and ancient empires to centuries of political change, warfare, and social challenges, the country has witnessed countless events that have shaped its identity and its people. Despite the adversities it has faced over the years, Afghanistan remains a land of resilience, culture, and diversity. Its archaeological heritage preserves traces of ancient civilizations, while its art, architecture, music, and dance reflect the country's extraordinary cultural richness. Afghan personalities, from poets and military leaders to athletes and artists, have left lasting legacies that continue to inspire and unite people. At the same time, it is important to recognize that Afghanistan continues to face significant challenges, including internal conflict, political instability, humanitarian crises, and the need for reconstruction. As the country seeks to recover and build a better future, preserving and valuing its cultural heritage, promoting peace and stability, and investing in human development and education remain crucial. The road ahead for Afghanistan may be difficult, but the nation's history is a testament to the resilience of its people and their ability to adapt and endure through difficult times. With international engagement and a commitment to its future, Afghanistan has the potential to overcome its challenges and build a more prosperous society while preserving its rich historical and cultural heritage. As the world continues to observe and engage with Afghanistan's history, it is important to recognize the depth and complexity of the country's story and to avoid simplistic generalizations. Afghan history is a mosaic of different peoples, cultures, and experiences, and understanding it in greater depth is essential for creating a foundation for dialogue, cooperation, and the construction of a better future for Afghanistan and its people. Ultimately, Afghanistan is a nation with a fascinating and vibrant history, filled with triumphs and setbacks, achievements and challenges. Exploring and understanding this history offers an opportunity to appreciate cultural diversity, recognize human resilience, and seek a more inclusive and harmonious world. May the history of Afghanistan continue to inspire and teach valuable lessons to present and future generations, building bridges between peoples and promoting mutual understanding.